Nobody knew it was happening until it was already over. That is the detail that keeps pulling people back into the story, that keeps generating the kind of conversation that does not die down after 24 hours the way most things in the space do. By the time anyone outside of a very small and very carefully selected circle found out that Dylan Wang had organized something private and deliberate and entirely focused on Shen Yue, the celebration had already happened. The flowers had already been arranged. The space had already been transformed into something that reflected not a publicist's idea of romance, but a specific person's idea of what would make one specific woman feel seen and celebrated and loved in the way that she actually deserves to be loved. It was done. It was real. And the details that have slowly filtered out since then have been doing something to people that entertainment news almost never does anymore. They have been making people feel something genuine. That is not a small thing to say about a story that exists inside an industry specifically designed to manufacture feeling on demand. The machinery of celebrity culture is extraordinarily good at producing moments that look like intimacy, that gesture toward something real, that give audiences just enough warmth to keep them engaged without ever actually delivering the thing itself. Dylan Wang organizing a private celebration for Shen Yue is not that. The reason people can tell the difference, the reason this story spread through fan communities with a particular velocity of something true rather than something constructed, is because of the details. And the details, every single one of them, point toward a person who was not thinking about how this would look. He was thinking about her. That distinction is everything. If you are not already subscribed to this channel, please do it right now, because we are just getting into the part of the story that changes how you see everything that came before it, and you need to be here for all of it. Start with the planning itself, because the planning is where character reveals itself most honestly. Anyone can respond to a birthday or an anniversary with something purchased and delivered by someone else. That is not nothing, but it is also not particularly revealing of who you are or how deeply you have paid attention to another person. What Dylan Wang apparently did was different in kind rather than just in degree. The celebration was built around specifics, around things that only someone paying close and sustained attention would know to include, around references that meant nothing to a general audience and everything to Shen Yue personally, the kind of references that accumulate only through time spent together, through conversations that nobody else was part of, through the patient and genuine practice of actually knowing someone rather than knowing about them. That is the version of Dylan Wang that this celebration revealed. Not the public figure, not the actor or the celebrity, or the carefully managed image that appears on magazine covers and award show red carpets. The version that has been paying attention to one person for long enough that he knows which flowers and which songs and which small specific details will land not as generic gestures of affection, but as evidence of something much more significant. Evidence of being truly, carefully, consistently seen. Shen Yue's response to the celebration has been described by people who were present as unguarded in a way that she almost never allows herself to be in any context where being observed is a possibility. And Shen Yue is always aware of being observed. That awareness is so deeply built into how she carries herself that most people who know her professionally have probably never seen what she looks like without it. The people who were there that evening apparently saw exactly that. A version of her that was not managing anything, not calculating the distance between feeling something and showing it, not editing herself in real time the way public life trains you to do almost automatically. Just a woman who was genuinely moved by what someone had done for her and was not trying to hide it. That image, Shen Yue, unguarded, in a space that Dylan Wang built specifically for her, is the one that has been living in people's heads since the story started circulating. It does not exist as a photograph or a video clip. It exists only in the accounts of people who were there and in the imagination of everyone who has heard those accounts. And somehow, because of that, it feels more real than anything that has ever been captured on camera between these two. Because it happened in private, because it was not for anyone else, because the entire point of it was that it belonged only to them. The guest list, or the deliberate absence of one, says as much as anything else about what Dylan Wang was building that evening. This was not a party. It was not a gathering designed to perform celebration for an audience of peers or industry contacts or anyone whose presence would shift the dynamic from intimate to social. The circle was small enough that everyone in it was someone Shen Yue genuinely loves and trusts, people whose presence would add to her feeling of being held rather than people whose presence would require her to perform being held. That kind of curation is not accidental. It requires someone to have thought carefully about what actually makes her comfortable, what actually constitutes celebration for her specifically, as opposed to celebration in general, what the difference is between a night that looks good and a night that feels good. Dylan Wang knew the difference, and he chose the version that felt good over the version that looked good every single time he made a decision about that evening. There is a philosophy embedded in that choice that goes beyond romance, that speaks to something about how he sees her and what he believes she deserves. In an industry where visibility is currency, and where even private moments have a way of becoming public assets, choosing to build something entirely outside of that economy is a statement. It says that her comfort matters more than the content, that her genuine experience of an evening matters more than the documentation of it, that she is worth more than what celebrating her publicly would do for either of their images. That is a rare thing to believe about another person, and an even rarer thing to actually act on.